Lynn Cox, shape mentor and artist. Lynn makes work and training about diving into darkness. What is diving into darkness? What does that mean?
It's a year-long project that I'm running which looks at all aspects of darkness and how darkness can be fun and positive. So being used as a coaching tool, a training tool, get people out of their comfort zones, bungee jumping in the dark, having a bath in dark ale, which sounds very different, and introducing people to actually the diversity they can find in themselves, the adaptation, the challenge, the confidence that dark will give them.
And you mean literally the dark? You don't mean darkness as a metaphor?
No, complete.
Spell it out for me.
It's complete and utter darkness. So if I'm taking somebody into a dark room, they won't be able to see a thing, not even a chink of light.
And they then can make art in that dark.
So it's a goal setting, making some artworks. I bring them into the dark, bring them in safely, bring them in with a white cane so they feel safe and connected to the ground, and then start to introduce them to the art materials, how they're going to work with them, what are their goals, what do they want to get out of the session, helping them to make something in the dark, and then coming out into the light and discussing it.
It's art and an awareness tool.
They might be introduced into the darkness, have time to come to terms with the darkness, see what the darkness means to them. Then you use darkness as a tool almost to help you make your goal, so you're not distracted by the visual, and they can feel the goal, feel its sense, what it's like.
And she uses her dark-friendly art materials. And what sort of dark arts are there?
Well, within the dark spaces, I don't want to use anything like lights. So once a space is defined with a visual, it becomes known. So any tactile artworks, any tactile materials, so you'd think of temperature, texture, all kind of aspects, so that we'd be using metal, papers, woods, pipe cleaners. I only find really a very, very few percentage. I've had 1 out of 200 people that couldn't take the dark. Some of them actually find the dark a liberation, and they have more confidence, and you sometimes find the people that wouldn't necessarily be the leadership roles in the light will take on the leadership tasks in the dark and end up, telling the CEOs of the organisation what to do. To see it as a face.
Lynn also makes her original tactile sculpture.
What I'm doing is, this artwork's just come back from Germany, and it's the first time I've kind of seen it properly. It moves, it changes, it transforms when people feel it. So what I'm doing is I'm just readjusting it back to something that I like. It's never going to be readjusted back to exactly what it was. And the face, I'm just checking that the eyes are where they're meant to be and the nose hasn't got splodged. Yeah, I'm not happy with the nose, so I'm trying to readjust that. As you can see, it's quite tricky because the only places I can really go in are the eyes and the mouth. I actually call this sculpture self-portrait, which isn't strictly true. I think the hair is kind of like my hair, as in it's a bob, but this one's far more dynamic. And also, I've got no bone structure in my face, so I decided the sculpture needed a bit of bone structure. So I should imagine that's quite hard to, it doesn't work so well on a visual as it does on a tactile basis. I should imagine it's quite hard to see it as a face.
I can see it as a face. Her sculptures are accessible to all. We could film it all day.
But this is great when you watch kids feeling something like this, because it gives them permission to touch the artwork and it doesn't matter if they change it. That's the joy with the wire. It means people can change it and manipulate it. And it's fab. It's absolutely fab.
Lynn has had success and faced many barriers.
You know, from a working class background, my parents never thought that I would get a job with any challenges to it. I remember when I was about 14 saying I'd love to be a journalist, and people just laughing in my face, you know, school and at home.
Yet Lynn feels losing her sight also helped her move on.
And you once said that becoming blind was a blessing based on class. And tell me explore that a bit, please.
I come from a very working class area in the West Midlands, Dudley. Dudley was part of the Black Country, so it was highly industrial. There was, you know, sewing machine shops, you know, seamstresses, you know, factories full of people just making garments when that used to be an option. I suppose losing my sight and realising actually was the best thing, because it took me out of that very narrow-minded working class. You know, you probably do school, have a boring job, have 6 kids, get divorced, whatever. Option was never given to me as an option.
And when did you think, oh, I am an artist, I'm not going to go back to Dudley or whatever?
I think what you do is you run towards something or you run away from something. And I knew I never wanted to go back to Dudley, and I knew I wanted an exciting career. So I suppose as soon as I made my first artworks at 17, at that level I even considered myself an artist, because the thing I enjoyed was messing about with the clay and making sculptures in clay. So I suppose as soon as I started to get into exhibitions, I started to think I was an artist. And I suppose even if it's just college ones, you're doing exhibitions, do you know what I mean? I'm lucky enough now that I tend to get exhibitions in the UK and Europe, and they're potentially paying me for the exhibitions. But I'm just on that cusp, and that's taken 10 years.
Lynn has a professional look, including heels and Chanel.
You take a lot of care for your appearance, so your heels and your lipping. So tell me about putting on the makeup, the nails and the high heels. Why you think that's important, or you like it?
Yeah. What I tend to do is I like to wear heels when I'm working. I've got relatively low ones today. They're only about 6 centimetres high, but that's usually the lowest I will wear, because it straightens my back and I feel more confident. I always wear my Chanel perfume, because then I think at least I smell nice. I tend not to do makeup, but I ensure nails and eyelashes, hair, eyebrows, all of that is done. Because I think as a visually impaired person, working either as an artist or as a coach, you've got to present the person you are, and being confident, knowing you look good is part of that whole process for me. So I feel more comfortable, confident. I know if I'm working, I'll give a better impression. I'll work harder because I'm feeling like that, and I'll be on my best form. And also, hopefully, I'll be knocking down some of the stereotypes that visually impaired people haven't got a clue what they're wearing and what colours they got, and they don't wash.
Brilliant.
Lynn is smart, but the art world is not very accessible.
Tell me about why you don't do private views, please.
I tend not to do a lot of private views. You can just about drag me if my own work's in it. But even then, I hate the whole experience of private views, because it's all about finding people, chatting, moving on. And if you can't see, finding people is the tricky part. I can chat, I can drink the wine. So what I tend to do is stand in a corner, chatting to whoever comes over to me and drinking wine and getting slowly sloshed. you know, if you're going to be there, you need to be moving about. There might be people that you don't know that you'd like to get introduced to, but you don't know they're there because, you know, what can you do? So the old thing about private views, I tend to dread.
Lack of access takes her back, but what takes her forward?
I mean, that took you back, but I know you talk about tenacity, and retrievers are tenacious. Tell me a bit about what takes you forward.
I think the things that take me forward are bloody mindedness, or tenacity, or knowing what you want. I like the golden retrievers because they're tenacious. They're not stubborn. They're definitely tenacious. And on most things, I think I'm easygoing. There's certain things, though, I kind of dig my heels in and there's no budging me. So having a career in art was one of those.
Lynn uses blindness to build creative inspiration.
Well, being visually impaired's been great for me, actually, because I have to describe it as a privilege. Because I've appreciated things and learnt to interpret the world how I never would if I could see properly all the time. So as the sight has gone, I've learnt to interpret the shape and size of rooms by their echo, realise whether I'm walking next to cars or under trees due to the echo. And I can still produce a picture, but you're producing it in a different way. And it's intriguing. So as I was losing the sight, the skill was getting better and better. There's a certain joy, and also appreciating the sounds of the cars going down the street and how they go down the street, how that sounds different in the rain to it does on a dry day. All the smells, you know, the wet grass or the flowers in spring, especially after an awful winter, and suddenly you walk down the street and you think, oh, things are alive.
Lynn won the Winston Churchill Travel Bursary. She will take diving into darkness around the world.
What will you do on the bursary?
On the Winston Churchill Travel Bursary, I'll be visiting Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Tokyo, Thailand and Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur on the first part. On the second part I'll be visiting India. And I'll be looking at destinations in the dark, exhibitions in the dark, dark caves, dark chocolates, bathing in dark ale. And doing anything I can find that's related to darkness. So there's bay in Hong Kong where you can swim in the water, and there's a luminous algae, which sounds really interesting.
Lynn is writing a book about this journey.
I want the book to be slightly eclectic and part travel journal, part coaching manual, part, you know, bizarre woman travelling around the world. So as part of that, I will have to, unfortunately, try dark chocolate in Singapore. And equally, you know, I really don't want to do this, but in Hong Kong they do dark ale baths. So I'm going to have a dark ale bath and a massage, and I wonder if you can get drunk through your skin.
And she intends to build up darkness events in the UK.
But I'm also then pulling that together with projects in Britain on making artwork in the dark, exhibiting artists, hopefully getting a small showcase of talented artists together, singers, comedians, and showcasing them in the dark so you don't know whether they have or haven't got a disability or whatever colour, what religion, whatever. You're just taking the person on what they are. So a bit like, I suppose, the concept of The Voice, but actually immersing everybody in the darkness.
Though successful, Lynn is a keen user of shape.
How do organisations like Shape help your work and your access?
For me, shape are that link between what I should be able to do and what I can't do. So like teaching you different techniques, like simple things like how to blog, how to do the content, how social media can be used to help your career, how a literacy agency would work and getting somebody to look at your book, how careers in various fields will work and are they for you. So for me it's been a huge mix, because I've actually worked as a coach mentor on previous schemes and also worked as a coach on Creative Steps, but I've also taken part as a participant in things as well.
SHAPE provides access and removes barriers in the arts.
Yes, I mean, in a nice way, it would be lovely if SHAPE didn't need to exist and that it was equal out there, and you know there was full equality and disabled people had equal access into the arts. But at the minute, there's this huge gap from people starting their careers and wanting the basics, like how do they budget a project, how can they, you know, make work, who are the contacts, who should you be talking to.
With funding and access, what is her perfect job?
What would be your perfect commission, Lynn?
My perfect commission, I suppose my perfect commission would be to have an extended period of time to explore my darkness project, my Diving into Darkness project, and the artistic possibilities of it. So say anything from, I don't know, I suppose if I'm perfect, 3-month, 6-month residency somewhere, messing about with darkness, getting different people in, working out what works, what darkness means to them, how making art within dark spaces can release their potential, exhibiting professional and amateur artists' work in darkness, being able to showcase singers who you don't know are disabled or not. So you just take the people on their talent, whatever that is, you know, singing or comedy or whatever, even dancing maybe. And just messing about with possibilities.